Husker Nation, we're going to take a moment and send our best thoughts out to young Arik Gilbert, and hopefully things get better.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And we are just mere days away. We're mere days away on a Tuesday from beat Minnesota on Thursday. All of that in play. We've got lots to talk about. Of course, the Arik Gilbert situation, Blackshirts, and otherwise, but then beating Minnesota. We'll talk about all that. But first, Mark Onwater, let them know about Athletic Brewing.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Athletic Brewing. Much like Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. They brew over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, Sours, all your favorites, and they're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use the code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON, 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 at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. Again, if you have not subscribed, please do so. Click the pause button. I'll wait for you. Excellent. Now that you subscribed, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. For you everydayers, thank you for coming and hanging out for these 20-plus minutes each and every single day. Your Huskers every day, Locked On Huskers, as we prepare for beat Minnesota in a full ride. The story on a Tuesday. This particular Tuesday is not the thing that you want to focus on if you're Matt Rule in this Husker program or the Husker fan base. Not what you want to do. But Arik Gilbert, the reports that arrested early this morning, and the reports are out there, and I work from this space. I spend my time as a professional, talking about what I know, what I've experienced, and what I know. Speculation is somebody else's business as far as I'm concerned. I speak about what I know. I can repeat what I've been told if it has value and is confirmed. And then to say, this is the GPS of where we are, this is the mission of where we're going to go, and this is how we're going to get there. So throughout the course of this episode, we'll talk about Arik Gilbert, his situation. Of course, his waiver situation is a part of that as well. His history is a part of that. And then we'll talk about the Blackshirts being handed out and who's on that list and what it means for those players. And we'll go up down the list. And then, as we look forward to tomorrow's episode of Locked On Huskers will be a crossover, a compilation where our good buddy Kane Robb from Locked On Gophers, Minnesota coverage. He and I will do each other's podcast and try to give you, I will ask him about Minnesota. He will ask me about Nebraska, and then we'll meet in the middle and we'll figure out how Nebraska is going to beat Minnesota. Sorry, Kane Robb. Got to do it. That's how that works. So we got a full show for you, but let's talk with the news. Again, the reports of Arik Gilbert, and the history behind it is that you start in year one playing in LSU, and then you go to Georgia and you win 2 national championships. And because of COVID rules and NCAA compliance and regulation, the NCAA can put up a wall and say, okay, the maximum number of schools for you to play in this number of years is 2. If you get to 3, then you have to put in for a waiver, and we have to put in for a waiver anyway. But if it's 3, sometimes the belief is that there's just cause and reason why you believe that, whether the school or the player believe that the NCAA will okay it and permit you to play on and play forward. And Arik Gilbert's been in Lincoln, Nebraska for months now. For months. Waiting for the NCAA to let him know whether his football career as he planned it exists or whether it ends and he's got to do something else. And remember, this is a young man. While he's still a man, he's still a young man and in transition. There are a couple of things in play. that you have to ask about and be curious about. And again, there's no, I don't need to speculate about it, but you ask the question, why the change, right? That young people adjust, and as they grow, they need different things in their world. They need different influences, different voices, different rules. And so the NCAA had set it up for players to be able to move along and simply say, quite frankly, I think this place is not ideal for me now. It was then, it may not be now, and so we can move along. Choosing Nebraska was a big deal for the University of Nebraska. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. One of the top tight end prospects in the country want to play for Matt Rule and Nebraska. And once that decision is made, you then have to put a pin in that and make sure all of the diligence required, all of the vetting that is required to get done before you sign. Ideally, it should be done before you sign. Ideally, all of the boxes should be checked. Ideally, the agreements are in play and you have confirmation and some communication from between University of Nebraska and the NCAA that it's okay for you to proceed forward with this as an athletic situation. As a student, it would be easy for him to transfer in to Nebraska. Easy for him to get in, easy for him to get to work on the academic side. But from the athletic side, there are other bells that have to ring and other boxes that need to be checked. Some of that can be done in advance. Some of it requires, trust in the system, belief and understanding, and then communicating. Through all of this, that young man has been idling. He's been idling. This is a guy that played for the national championship the last 2 years. And in the past few months, he has basically been a practice squad player for the University of Nebraska. And that has to hold some frustration. But again, what we're trying to share with you is that this is a difficult situation. I have zero desire to jump on, pile on Arik Gilbert. I have zero power and desire to question the NCAA and its decision-making. Its rules are its rules. And most people are aware of those rules, and you can ask for exceptions. That's what's being done here. And when you're asking for an exception to the rule, quite often, the answer is no. And whether right or wrong, it impacts the young man. It impacts the head coach, current and future. It impacts the NCAA and its persona. The brand that is the NCAA becomes way more the focus. Why would you exclude? And then what are we doing collectively as a fan base and as a community? What are we doing for the young man to help him redirect, rebrand, and re-identify his life, re-image his life, recraft his life, rebuild his life? He had a terrible moment. It's a terrible moment. And it's in public. We will not throw Arik Gilbert away as a human being. We will simply set aside the football career and hope that he manages to find a way, a good path, a good direction for what he's going to do next. And hopefully all the people around him are supportive, positive, and strong, because that's what the young man deserves. That's just that. We'll throw it to break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Blackshirts. University of Nebraska defensive unit, we have 11. We'll talk about them when we come back to Locked On Huskers. Hey gang, DP here, and again, thank you for hanging out here on Locked On Huskers. Greatly appreciate it. Mark Onweiler, kind sir, please let our fans know about Gametime.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Gametime. Now, if you know me, you know I love a deal, and I hate paying any more than I have to. I'm always tracking down the best bargains for any event that I'm going to. Well, that hunt for tickets just got a whole lot easier thanks to Gametime. Gametime is your place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months out in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up until the day of the event. And you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less than what you paid, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. DP, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Lots to talk about. Again, if you have not subscribed, please do so. Pause. Good. We give you enough time to pause it. Click the subscribe button if you did it. If you've already done it, well done. That means you're an everydayer and you're showing up anyway. Greatly appreciate you as well. We thank the folks again from Athletic Brewing and the folks from Gametime for making this happen. And I'm good with it. The Blackshirts ritually in Nebraska have a higher standing. Remember, there's no such thing as the black shirt edition for offensive players at the University of Nebraska. And this elite program, this blue blood program, does not have a pedestal for offensive players to get on at the beginning of the season. You get the starting position, and that's a big day. But it's not the same as being awarded the black shirt. For folks outside of Nebraska, they may not understand that. But within the confines of the state of Nebraska, they understand that the black shirt legacy is also a black shirt responsibility. There is pride in it and there is power in it. And those that it's handed to, that then have to agree to hold up a standing of a great history, honoring some great legends and the way that they prepared, the way they practiced, the way they carried themselves, and then the way they produced. Because ultimately, the black shirt, while a wonderful badge and a wonderful superhero costume, there still has to be character within the person wearing it in order for it to have any value. Recent editions of the black shirts haven't lived up to the standard that was established at the beginning in the origins of the black shirts. But we have the list, and the list of 11. That rule said today that these are our best 11 players. These are our best 11 defensive players. I generally try to stay away from stepping on the toes of coaching staffs that know their players because they spend far more time with them than I do. They see them at practice. They see them at workouts. They see them in film study. They communicate with them by text and by email. And so I offer that this coaching staff, especially from the defensive side of the ball, that Tony White has a real good idea about what he wants in his black shirts. And remember the people over the player. People play. These players are going to have black shirts, and there are 11. And I found I found it interesting. So let's go through that up front. And these will be the first 11 defenders on the field, according to Matt Rule today. So I'm not speaking out. I'm literally taking his quote and putting it into effect here. That the three bigs up front, Ty Robinson is black shirt number 1. Nash Hutmacher is defensive lineman black shirt number 2. Blaze Gunnerson, all 6'5", 255, 56 pounds of him, will be at the other end for the Huskers up front. Those are the three in the 3-3-5. That first three. Those are the three. The second three, I don't think anybody's really surprised by that. I think you could ask the question, well, maybe Cam was going to be a part of it. But, okay, if you're going to start the game with Blaze Gunnerson, who's been out there, he's actually made plays in the Big Ten, okay, then fine. At linebacker, nobody's surprised that Luke Reimer is black shirt number 1 when it comes to linebackers. Injury plays a part of this. So I'm assuming, and I hate to do that injury has some impact on who the first 11 on the field are going to be defensively. If you're telling me that John Bullock beat out Nick Henrich, I'm surprised, but I'll applaud anyway. With that, John Bullock has not made a tackle from a defensive standpoint. He's made them on special teams, but he hasn't made a tackle in a Big Ten game. He hasn't made a tackle for Nebraska defensively, but he's played well in this camp, so he will be on the field. The third linebacker will be Chief Borders, and I had several discussions yesterday, including Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman, and asking the question: is this the best three linebackers? And he said, well, we have to trust that those are the three best linebackers. We have to trust that they've had the best camp, that they put in the most work, that they have the greater understanding of what Tony White wants, and they've shown the proclivity to produce. They're actually able to do the things that Tony White wants to do on the field defensively against Minnesota. So 3 and 3. Then that leaves 5 in the back. And at the back end of this thing, there's some real interesting, put a star by it moments. But Isaac Gifford from the rover position, Blackshirt, he'll be the 5, which means he's the downhill guy. He's the fill in space guy. He'll be the run and hit guy. So that there's a lot to that. The corners were interesting and the safeties were interesting. That if to say that Deshaun Singleton, Malcolm Hartzog, Omar Brown, and Quentin Newsom. Okay. That's the 5 in the back. And I think we're not surprised by that if you followed what's led up to this at camp. You've listened to the names. Of course, Marcus Buford, and there's the Miles Farmer situation. But Buford, again, injury always has a play in who gets to play. Tommy Hill is not a part of this. But I think the big fair question would be, are you, the Husker fan, surprised that MJ Sherman is not a part of the best 11 defensively and not a Blackshirt? He'll start the game against Minnesota on the bench. Expect him to play. 100% expect him to play. But are you surprised? Javen Wright. Listed as a linebacker. Grown up and developed as a rover. Not out there. So this is the 11 that are going to take the field and represent Nebraska. Tony White feels like in the best situation, whatever he wants to take away from Minnesota, and I'll repeat that, whatever Tony White wants to take away from Minnesota, this is the first 11 they're going to do so. So this tells me, 1, we know who the 11 are. 2, it makes me think about what they're trying to take away from Minnesota. Are they taking away run game, power run game? Are they taking away stretch, vertical run game? Are they taking away short passes? Are they going to go cover 3 with 2 under? What are you going to do with it? You got 5 defensive backs on the field. You've got 2 pressure linebackers and a young run and hit linebacker who's making his debut for the Huskers in the defensive starting lineup. Tell me what you think about it, and tell me what you think it means. But we now have Blackshirts, and that is always a big moment for Husker Nation. We know who they are. 2 days. 2 days, 2 sleeps. We get to figure out what all of that means. We'll close this episode of Locked On Huskers. I just want to preview. Look, Kane Robb's coming. The crossover is going to happen. And, oh, by the way, there's this little thing going on tomorrow in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'll get hyped about it when we come back. Hey, gang, you are appreciated. Thank you very much for hanging out for Locked On Huskers. Again, your Huskers every day, and I will repeat this. Shout out to Arik Gilbert, and hopefully he has a better tomorrow than he had today. Whatever's required for that to happen, whatever people need to be in movement, whatever circle needs to be formed, do that for that young man because ultimately he needs it, and you're good for it. You're absolutely good for it. Blackshirts have been named tomorrow in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the grand dame that is Memorial Stadium. A thing that is going to happen has never happened before. 90,000 plus Husker fans will show up at Memorial Stadium to watch a college volleyball game. Well, some will say, well, no, 90,000 are coming to see Scotty McCreery. But no, it's Nebraska. No, they're not. They love him. They're going to show up. They're going to hang out no matter what the weather is. But Scotty McCreery's concert is only secondary to a record-setting crowd, record-setting attendance, record-setting event at Memorial Stadium. 90,000+ fans will gather at Memorial Stadium on a Wednesday in August to watch college volleyball. John Cook and the staff, Trev Alberts and the athletic department, the university itself in making every change, adjustment required. Look, putting this thing on and then still planning. It's one thing just to have the volleyball game, but to have a full-fledged concert after it. Look, there's a lot. There's a lot. I'm going to be that dude. I'm a little worried about the grass under all of this because I don't know, it's a football season and it still has to happen. So let's not kill the grass is all I'm saying. I know it's turf, but you're going to press against this turf with tens of thousands of people on the field. I've just been around too many of them to know that things happen. And then to find out all the curiosities about how they're going to play. Are there going to be players that wear, this is why I literally had the shades. They're going to be players that play they're going to play with shades on, right? Like that, the wraparounds. Yeah. Do you put the face black on because you're playing volleyball in the sun? Like, is that a thing? Like, there are things that I need to know. Volleyball Day in Nebraska, record setting. Husker fans, bravo to you. Bravo for understanding the assignment and stepping up. Of all of Locked On Sports Network, of all the network of schools that are covered, not one of other of them can say that 90,000 plus of their fans got together to watch volleyball. Pretty powerful stuff. And they tell you, it's different. It's different in Nebraska. It really is. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Tomorrow you'll get Locked On Huskers and Locked On Gophers. We'll do that for you. It's going to be a big day, but even then, guess what you're going to hear? Those three words we love so much. Go Big Red.